Blake Lively is at it again. What'd she do this time? She offered some of the worst advice I have ever heard. If you want to be emotionally stunted and perpetually insecure, then sure, follow Blake's advice. But if you want to thrive and live confidently, come along and let's learn some practical, timeless wisdom. Hi, I'm Tracy Marshall, and welcome to The Tracy Marshall Show. I'm a wife, mom, former executive, and lawyer, now sharing practical wisdom for women who want to thrive. From mastering your career and building strong families to deepening your faith and living with grace, I'm here to tackle the tough subjects that no one taught you in school. Today, we're looking at some horrible advice Blake Lively recently gave at a red carpet event and how we can choose wisdom and do better. But before we begin, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Blake Lively was recently honored at Time Magazine's red carpet event called their 100 Most Influential People of the Year. She gave an impassioned speech where she kind of obliquely referred to her trouble over the last couple of years. Presumably, she was talking about her lawsuit and counter-lawsuit with Justin Baldoni over a movie they made. And then she went on to introduce her mother, who was in attendance, and talk about how her mother had survived one of the worst traumas a woman can ever face. She went on to praise her mother for coming out of the ordeal, but then the lessons she offered from her trouble and her mother's trauma were absolutely horrible. Let's take a look. What is Blake Lively's biggest, most important piece of advice? Be afraid. Be very afraid. Here's how Blake tees up her advice.
It's a silent torch of womanhood that we come to know, a pact that privately we must show others how to survive, literally or spiritually.
Well, that's ominous. Some private torch of womanhood we're obligated to pass along. What's the torch? What's the pact?
We don't let our daughters know, but one day we break their hearts by letting them in on the secret that we kept from them as they pranced around in princess dresses, that they are not and will likely never be safe. At work, at home, in a parking lot, in a medical office, online, in any space they inhabit, physically, emotionally, professionally.
Really? Are we better off or more empowered if we choose to believe that this moment in time is so dangerous and horrible for women? This whole piece of advice is gut-wrenching to me. I would not say this to my daughters or granddaughters if you had a gun to my head. Honestly, this is what motivated me to start the show. I was tired of the terrible advice out there, and I wanted to offer some practical wisdom, some things I've learned over the years. I'm not perfect, and I have a lot left to learn, but I've been around for a while, and I've learned some things, and I wanted to share them with my daughters, my granddaughters, my kids. I wanted to share them with you. First of all, we live in the safest and most prosperous period in world history. Global poverty has plummeted 90% over the last 200 years, and crime rates are at record lows in developed nations. Advances in healthcare, technology, and education have empowered women to thrive like never before. And are women really not safe in their own homes? Look, it's tragic for victims of domestic abuse, but the facts are facts. Stats show domestic violence has dropped 65% since the 1990s, thanks to shelters and laws, and women like you building stable, safe homes. Of course, there are scary things in the world, and we should teach our children. We should practice wisdom. We should trust our safety instincts, and we should be careful about who we trust. But that is very different. It's very different to be wise about the choices you make than to lean into fear and to be afraid all the time. What's the real lesson? The right lesson is not to be afraid, but to be courageous. The Bible tells us to fear not, but to choose courage over and over again. In fact, it's the single most repeated instruction in all of the Bible. I haven't counted myself, but I've been told that the Bible repeats this instruction to fear not, but be courageous 365 times, one for every day. Why? Well, I think it's because humans have a tendency toward fear. We all kind of go there naturally. It's not something we have to teach our kids or preach to ourselves. But fear is not the answer. Courage is the answer. Fear tends to shrink your world and turn us inward. It makes us less likely to go do new things, to try hard things. It makes us less likely to achieve. And what's the path to achievement? It's courage. Courage is doing the right thing, even when it's hard. Courage is showing up, admitting your faults, and loving and serving other people. Courage is also knowing whom you can trust. Hopefully, most importantly, it's God, but also courage is learning whom you can trust around you. It's just not realistic or feasible that you're going to go through this world trusting no one and being afraid in every single environment. If you live like that, you'll end up alone and lonely. You'll end up emotionally stunted and unhealthy. Courage is choosing to move forward, whether that's speaking the truth to someone, making a hard decision, or standing firm in your faith. Reject fear and choose courage. Blake's second lesson: see yourself as a victim. See others as a victim. And whatever you do, never forget your victimhood. From the time she stands up to give her speech, she frames herself as a victim and says that she's there given this opportunity to speak for women. But really, is it that hard for women to have a voice today? Today, women outpace men in higher education. In 2022, 59% of college graduates were women. 40% of managerial roles in businesses across the country are held by women, and in many industries, women are outpacing men when it comes to promotions. Blake also frames her mother as a victim.
I am here, and my mom is here, because that woman not only survived, but she told others how.
And then Blake goes on to say how she watched her mother suffer her whole life.
I've watched her conceal her raw and undeserved shame my entire life. So as her daughter, being asked to share this today is monumental. If we name it, we change it.
Really? If we name it, we change it? Well, that sounds catchy, sure, but it takes a lot more than naming something to change it. It takes courage, it takes hard work, it takes changing culture, and even changing laws. What's the real lesson? Don't see yourself as a victim. See yourself as someone with agency, someone who can make choices. Even see yourself as a victor. Look, if you live for any amount of time on this planet, you will experience trouble. You may be a victim, but don't stay the victim. Grieve if it's hard, but don't stay there. Make choices, move on, take action. Blake makes life sound so difficult and so ominous that you have no choice but to play the victim and try to survive until death.
I know the superpower of female triumph. We can make it to the end alive.
What? A woman's superpower is her ability to just exist until the end of her days? No. How about your superpower is your feminine strength, your ability to create, your ability to influence? And then Blake offers this gem.
Never underestimate a woman's ability to endure pain.
That's just ridiculous. Of course, women can endure pain. Have you ever heard of childbirth? But it's not the pain that matters. Don't let the pain define you. It's what you do in spite of the pain that matters. For example, sure, it's cool that women can survive childbirth, but what's really impressive is what that woman does to raise that child or those children after they're born. Does she teach them to find God? Does she teach them to be good people? Does she teach them to love and serve others? That's what's impressive. It's not the pain that matters. I've had some difficulties in my life. My mom died when I was in high school, and I was left alone with a dad with anger issues. I've had colleagues at work turn on me and lie about me, and now I live with some chronic pain. But that's not even what I want you to know about me. I don't even like to talk about that. At the end of my days, what I want my friends, my people, especially my family, to remember is hopefully that I loved them, that I served them, and hopefully I had some good influence in this world while I was living. Don't live your life seeing things just acting on you. No, you have agency to act on your world. You have the ability to choose. You can choose your perspective or your attitude. Something may be horrible and terrible in the moment, but you can choose how you're going to think about it going forward. You can also choose your actions. Yes, when you get knocked down, you grieve, you take a moment. You may take a while, but you keep going. You take action. You can choose that action. And lastly, you choose the people you trust. What's the bottom line? Don't see yourself as a victim. See yourself as someone with agency and someone who can make choices, someone who can be an overcomer. And Blake's third message, don't see individuals, see categories. She's already put herself and her mother in the victim category. She's already told her daughters that they're going to be victims just because they're female. She's already told all women that they should be terrified of people in every circumstance. And then Blake goes on to offer her support, but not to individuals, to categories of people.
And to all the communities across the gender, age, political, geographical, and racial spectrum who fight every day just to be safe, I see you.
Blake may mean well, but she doesn't see and care about people as individuals so much as she sees them in categories, defined by their gender, their age, their political affiliation, their geography. Okay, that's a little weird, like it matters whether you were born in Nebraska or New York. And most sadly of all, she sees people as defined by their race. What's the real lesson? Love and serve people as individuals. I say we should see people as individuals, not as categories. Of course, this isn't original to me. Martin Luther King Jr. encouraged people to judge others by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. But you know, that's not original to Martin Luther King Jr. either. God says that he shows no partiality to people in the Bible. And in Galatians, it warns us not to judge people by their ethnic background, their economic status, or their gender. Judging people as individuals is the road to personal happiness and a good culture. In all fairness, Blake does have a kind word for her husband, movie star Ryan Reynolds.
And thank you to every man, including my sweet husband, who are kind and good when no one is watching.
But even as Blake thanks her husband for his kindness, it kind of seems like a subtle insult to all those Neanderthal men out there. After all, she's already said that she's planning to teach her daughters that they're not going to be safe in any environment, even in their own homes. She would only say that if she believed men to be inherently unsafe. Here's the deal. Forget the trendy advice to elevate women over men because men have had historically some advantages. Forget that. We've got to promote cooperation instead of competition and find ways to elevate both. Forget the trendy advice to fight racism by practicing more racism. You'll only end up with a downward spiral. And forget the trendy advice to think you can judge people based on any external characteristic. Only God can see someone's heart. Only God knows their full backstory. It's why we're told to love everyone, even our enemies, and leave the judging to God. Blake Lively may mean well. She may think she's using her platform to promote women and help the downtrodden, but her advice is awful. Don't teach fear, promote victimhood, and tell people to consider others based on some external category. Don't teach fear, inspire courage. Don't teach victimhood, teach agency and action. Inspire people to achieve. And don't see people as categories. You can't help a category. You'll only cause retribution. You can only love and serve and help individuals. Come along. Let's ignore the trendy, terrible advice and practice some timeless and true wisdom. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for spending time with me. But before you go, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, share this episode with a friend, and if you've got questions or comments, drop them in the box below. I'd love to know what you're thinking. And remember, you can build the life you want, and you can succeed.